In this lesson, I'm going to show you something called the curve editor. But before we can use the curve editor, we need to put an animation in our scene. So what I've done is created a plane and a box. And as a basic review, I'm going to move this box from this side of the plane to this side, over 100 frames. So I first select my auto key, which turns everything red. Move my slider to 100, because 0 is where it starts, 100 where it ends. Now I'm going to select the actual box, and I'm going to pull the box across the scene using the Move tool. And notice it generates an open key here at the beginning, where we obviously started, and one at the end. Now when I turn off auto key and hit return play, you'll see the preview of the animation. Now if we look at this closely, you'll notice that the box, when animated, does not move at a constant velocity. It actually appears to go from a stopping point, almost accelerating, tapers off to a level point, and then it slows down ever so slightly. So we want to correct this. We want to make it look like this box is moving from point A to point B at the same exact speed. To do this, we open something called the Mini Curve Editor. Down here on your timeline to the left, if you're using a new version of Max, when you select that, your timeline changes into something called the Curve Editor. Now it's very intimidating. There are many different settings here. We will not play with too many of those this time around. But just to make a quick assessment here, to manipulate the zooming in and out, click the middle roller mouse and drag down, and that will allow you to see this red line, this red curve. Now this red curve represents the movement of the box. Remember, our keyframes are red. Blue and green have not been changed, so they are completely straight across the board, unedited. However, the red is showing that it says negative 100 up to 100, and it's showing you this curve that represents its velocity, so to say. To edit and make these changes, to make this look like one constant velocity from point A to point B, we need to make this a perfectly straight line. Now there's a lot of presets up here that you can play around with, but I'm going to show you how to edit by hand, and that is come up to the end point, and you'll see a little plus show up. Click there and you'll notice that that is a keyframe, turns white, and we have this blue handle that comes out. Now selecting the end of the handle, you should be familiar with this. This is a spline command where we can actually edit and adjust. Now I'm going to come down to the bottom one and do the same. I'm going to try to pull that handle up so that I'm making this as straight as possible from point A to point B. Now it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be pretty close. Now with a straight line and no curve in the velocity, I can hit return in my video here and hit play, and now my box moves at the same constant velocity from start to finish. Okay, so if you have problems and something visually doesn't look right, the curve editor will help you do that. Now a little bit more with the curve editor, you can make your point A to point B, or you can adjust these handles to get certain effects that you want without having to add additional keyframes. So notice here what I'm doing is I'm over-exaggerating that curve a lot. It's tapered off at both ends. Now when I hit return and I preview, it goes slow and it takes off, and then it slows down again. So the jump in the curve is actually going to be a faster speed, where the flatness, the tapered flatness look is actually representing a slow motion. So you can take some time and adjust, but again, we went from keyframe to keyframe, but we've actually put some tweening in there that we've had adjusted. Now there are some presets. Like I said, you can go in here and hit this set tangents to linear, and that tries to do its best with the point selected. Okay, so I went in and I did both of those, and there we have a nice straight line again, but you can set different curves to get back where you were. Okay, so you can go very different ways here to make the curve editor work to your advantage, depending on what you want to achieve, and we will do a lot more of this in animation too. Now there's one last thing in the curve editor I'd like to show you, and that of course is a different technique here. I'm going to close the mini curve editor, And up here in the main toolbar, we have a larger curve editor. Same thing. It's just you have the capability of moving it around and opening it, expanding it, and working with the various settings without having to mess up the timeline down here. But that, of course, is the curve editor. And in our next lesson, we'll do a little bit more with the curve editor in terms of making a box repeat an animation without having to re-keyframe it.